Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things through a common sense lens. And we've obviously been covering extensively over the last few days, and honestly, well, the last few years, on the whole Doctor Who topic. I'm actually a huge fan of the original show, and of course, the new Who stuff was really, really great. That's when I fell in love with the show. I had a really great time with that, and I fell in love with it about 2011, and I just had an absolute blast. I mean, we even do a show on Sunday nights, When Who Was Good, where we go back and we watch a lot of the old good stuff and some of the older seasons and stuff like that with my friend Sunker Maiden and my dear sweet friend Mr. Grant Gregory. It's a really good time. Join us on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. But that's beside the point, boys and girls, because obviously the news has absolutely been insane over Neo Disney Doctor Who over the last couple of weeks. So crazy that as a guy who covers the rumor mill on a regular basis, I didn't even bother covering the rumor about Billie Piper coming back because I was like, that's insane. That's outlandish. There is no way they will do that. And I even said it on my live streams when we talked about it. I didn't make a video out of it. When we talked about it on my live streams, I was like, if they're doing this, it is strictly nothing more than a marketing ploy when it actually happened. And the video we just did over this, I said they did this as nothing more than a marketing ploy. Well, guess what, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the BBC and Russell T Davies is just as predictable as ever, because guess what? Common Nerd was right, and so were many of the rest of you out there. Doctor Who Insider claims Billie Piper reveal was a desperate plan by Russell T Davies to get Disney to continue the show. Yes, boys and girls, and this is the same insider that leaked this weeks ago that Billie Piper was indeed coming back. And I know a lot of people have their issues with Fandom Pulse, but at the end of the day, they were right about this when no one else was talking about it. And now they have once again, coming from the exact same insider, confirming what my suspicions and so many of you out there's worst suspicions were as well, is this was nothing more than a PR stunt to drum up some kind of excitement, either hoping to convince someone else out there to continue funding this show because Disney wants no part of it. And well, boys and girls, it looks like that's exactly what we've got here. This insider has got a whole bunch of juicy details of exactly what's going on behind the scenes, and even Billie Piper's reason for doing this as well, and of course as to why she's not introduced as the Doctor in the credits. So we're going to check out this article from fandompulse.substack. We're going to get into all of the juicy details and let you know exactly what is going on. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because just this morning, at the time of the recording of this video, we just crossed 2,000 subscribers once again, and I could not have done that without every single one of you. So please, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and get us up there to 2,100. That will be a beautiful thing to see. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Does it surprise you at all that this was exactly what we expected? Nothing more than a predictable marketing stunt by a desperate Russell T Davies to breathe some kind of life into a show that he has literally strangled that we already thought was in the grave. Or do you think this was complete and total lies and that Russell T Davies is an absolute genius who absolutely planned this right from the very get-go? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. And if I can support the channel, please check out the links in the description and think about becoming a member. We certainly would appreciate that. All right, from Fandom Pulse, ladies and gentlemen, a Doctor Who insider revealed that Russell T Davies had no plan involving Billie Piper, and the tacked-on regeneration scene at the end of Reality War was a desperate attempt to get Disney to fund another season. And obviously, it's one of them situations. We know Disney spent at least $100 million on 2 seasons of this show, and it has failed to chart a single time on the Nielsen ratings charts in America, which is what's going to matter to, of course, Disney. Not the numbers on the BBC iPlayer, but what happens in the United States. That means this thing hasn't hit more than 1 or 2 million, sometimes 3 million viewers for a single episode in the United States, because those are generally the numbers at the bottom top 10 of the Nielsen ratings. So this thing failed to chart in the United States. Why would Disney continue to fund it? Well, if you drum up a bunch of internet hype and you get a bunch of people talking about it, maybe, just maybe, you can convince somebody over there at Disney to continue to fund your event. Needless to say, considering how broke Disney is and how Star Wars' Andor's showrunner confirmed Disney is indeed broke, I think this is very much a desperate attempt that will probably fall flat. But of course, we'll see what happens. Disney's done dumber things in the past, now haven't they, boys and girls? Doctor Who has been in big trouble since the Ncuti Gatwa season 1 aired to some of the lowest ratings in the show's history. Season 2 continued trends where it broke records for low viewership, and at that point, even the media began to change its tune as to the health of the show, as increasingly, Russell T Davies inserted his lash outs at fans into the scripts of the show. And it's one of those things, I mean, literally, they had an episode just a few weeks ago where they went to the planet of the incels. No, I am not kidding you. And as someone with 6 kids who has been accused of being an incel before, that is absolutely hilarious. It's almost like all the people on the internet, all the commentators ragging on his show are getting under his skin. Oh, poor Russell T Davies can't handle a little criticism on the internet. Oh, you poor baby. While he claims he says he really doesn't pay attention much. Sure you don't, buddy. The internet went crazy over the weekend as it was revealed that Ncuti Gatwa was generated into Billie Piper, implied that she would be the 16th Doctor and a double down on a female lead for the show, where the first collapse in ratings was seen with Jodie Whittaker taking the helm in 2018. Now, obviously, if you saw my video that I just did the other day on this exact same topic of Billie Piper coming back to Doctor Who, you'll know that I'm just assuming she's not going to be a Doctor for all of the obvious evidence reasons, right? Her name, she's not introduced as the Doctor in the credits like we have seen every single other time. Even with the War Doctor, we have seen every single other time this actually happened. So needless to say, the plan is for her to be something different. She's not going to be the next Doctor. They're going to come up with some other wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, pull it out of their Russell T Davies' behind nonsense, just like the whole bi-generation garbage they did, just as an excuse so they could keep around David Tennant as a little teaser. I mean, he's still out there. And little member Barry, remember he's still out there. Stick around. We might bring him back. You never know. Even though they completely and totally destroyed his character and any kind of fan love anybody had for him, yet not a version of the character I want to see come back. And I'm considering, based on the ratings and how much scrutiny the 60th anthology anniversary had, I don't think anybody else is interested in that either. But of course, everybody loves Billie Piper. Everybody loves Rose Tyler. She's a fan favorite, always has been. We loved her coming back as Bad Wolf in the 50th anniversary special. You know what I mean? I've never heard her say a disparaging word against the fans. She's never been anything but sweet. She's a very lovely lady. This is who you try to bring back after you failed horribly with David Tennant and completely screwed the pooch on that. Well, now in his last desperate attempt, he's going to bring back in the only other fan favorite they've got left from his era, of course, Billie Piper. Doctor Who expert Star Whovian posted to X a scoop that shows Russell T Davies has no plans moving forward, and this is the last-minute attempt with Billie Piper to get Disney's attention. He posted, "Breaking. The BBC are worried about how they're going to continue Doctor Who. Billie Piper filmed her scene only a few weeks ago as a favor to RTD, who wanted a regeneration cliffhanger as a last-ditch attempt to convince Disney to extend their partnership. And Star Whovian has a very good track record." But it's not just Star Whovian. Fandom Pulse's own insider that told them about Billie Piper coming back as the regeneration for Ncuti Gatwa, well, guess what? They're confirming this as well. An insider source has given Fandom Pulse more information on the state of the show, which shows how desperate this really is. The Doctor Who insider, who broke the story about Jodie Whittaker returning to the show to Fandom Pulse earlier in May, has proven accurate so far. Oh, so it must have been a different insider that told them about the whole Billie Piper thing coming back. Like I said, I didn't even look past the headline on the Billie Piper thing because I thought it was too outrageous to even be true. Well, guess what? Common Nerd was wrong. Yeah, they really were willing to do that. Earlier in May, it has proven to be accurate so far. Told us this: "It's looking like we are approaching the end of Doctor Who." Color me shocked there. Worst ratings in the 60-year history of the show. At least for a long while. The fans from all corners are universally against the current direction of the show. The BBC is scrambling behind the scenes about what they're going to do going forward. And the people in charge seemingly have no idea what they're doing. Wow, who couldn't possibly have thought that based on what we've seen out of the last 2 seasons? An announcement from the BBC could drop at any moment now, but it's clear that the Doctor Who has never been in this bad a state in its 60-year history, which we know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. We've seen the ratings. We have talked about those numbers over and over and over again. And for all the detractors that go out there and go, well, there are going to be numbers later in, they're going to come in and they're going to be much better. And they're going to Where? The BBC never announces these numbers. They never give us any kind of official numbers. All we ever get is their overnight viewing numbers. If these long-term numbers were so great, why wouldn't they be touting them as headlines? Because they're not. It's just like anything else. It's just like a movie opening weekend. Your opening weekend is your best weekend every single time, because that shows you how much fan enthusiasm you have. That's how much excitement there is for it. That's how much people are expecting to watch it, right? If they're just going, I'll get to it, they don't care. They're not interested, right? That's why those first night numbers matter so much. Do not believe the lies. Do not believe the hype. All you have to do is look at box office tracking numbers. It's no different with television when it comes to premieres. In addition, we were told that the decision, like I said, worst ratings in 60-year history. The decision is to include Billie Piper was a very last-minute decision. Around the time that the Robot Revolution was airing, literally just a few weeks ago, they were still planning to go with a cliffhanger regeneration where we wouldn't see who Ncuti regenerated into. It seems more like a stunt casting to round off RTD2, which has been an absolute abomination. Talk about a sequel being way worse than the original. Because when I was starting out in the Doctor Who fandom back in like 2011 and 2012, RTD was the legend, was hailed as the greatest showrunner of all of Doctor Who history because he brought the show back and he revitalized it and he gave us this great storytelling and everything else and yada yada yada. And now look what we've gotten. Now we went from the guy who revived the show to the guy who literally might put its death nail in its coffin and cause it to literally go on hiatus for a while. Wow. Talk about coming full circle on something you've been involved in. That's a legacy you can be proud of. Right, Russell T. Davies? And kind of wrap up the new Who era. Boy, ain't that right. Neo Who. I like the Neo Who. By bringing it full circle. Billie wasn't even on set. She filmed everything with an incredibly small crew in front of a green screen in London a few weeks ago, boys and girls. Literally a few weeks before the series season finale aired, they tacked this on at the last minute. Oh my, oh my. In London a few weeks ago, and they just pasted her face onto Ncuti's body at the last minute. It's thought that Russell casting Billie was a way to increase audience interest, a bit like casting Tennant as 14. And honestly, it worked. This has been the most buzz Doctor Who has had all season. Right? Because I've done videos on the ratings and all that kind of stuff, and they do okay. Some of you guys are out there are still interested. I can't let this go. Right? This was a family event for me for a lot of years in my house, and they have taken that from me. They have taken that bonding experience that my family had over Doctor Who, and they've destroyed that. I would still be doing that with my family every single week to this day if it wasn't for what they have done to Doctor Who. That's why I can't stop talking about this. And that's why I will never stop talking about this until it goes on hiatus and until they cancel it. Sorry, it's just my kind of little obsessive compulsive that's just my obsession. It's kind of one of my obsessions. Let's see what we got. A bit like casting Tennant as 14. Obviously, it was one of those things. And I was one of those fools, too. I was hopeful, right? I was cautiously optimistic. We're going to see Tennant come back. We'll see RTD come back. Like, this is going to be it. We're going to have Dono come back. It's going to be great. It's going to be, yes, everything we loved about the early seasons of new Doctor Who. Be right there. And then they just crushed us with that 60th disgusting anthology anniversary series that RT did that was disgusting and it destroyed everything we loved about those characters and everything we loved about that relationship. So screw RTD, and not in the way I know he'd like me to. and hopefully then make the show more appealing to Disney. BBC a bit concerned currently about how they're going to continue the show themselves. Lots of scrambling going on because Disney does not want to re-up for this. They do not want to keep continuing to pay for this disastrous dumpster fire. They are broke. They don't have the money to keep doing this. Billie saw it more as a favor to Russell than anything. She's happy to do a special or a series, but it is also fine just to film a quick something in an attempt to help out the show, even if it ends up being no use. This literally could be completely inconsequential. It could be forgotten going forward, or it could literally flop and do them absolutely no good. I'm sorry. Just like those numbers about, what is it? I can't remember the name of the numbers that some of those groups that like to highlight, but it's basically like how much something is being talked about on the internet, right? It can't gauge whether that's negative talk or positive talk. All it can gauge is that. It's the same kind of nonsense numbers they use. They got Morpheus, the Morbin movie, back into theaters by Sony. They did another 2-week release of it because it started trending on Twitter because of Morbin time, because they completely and totally didn't get it. But that's the exact same kind of thing. That's all this is going to give you. And if you're still stupid enough to believe those numbers, then you deserve the money you waste on this show, and it's continuing to decline ratings. Because if this thing does somehow by some miracle, or maybe some kind of curse of Satan himself, some kind of deal with the devil, this thing literally gets a 3rd season, its ratings are just going to continue to do the same thing. So please, for the love of heaven out there, God grant me the miracle. Have someone go in there and continue to fund this season, because I will continue to roast you, laugh you, mock you, and ridicule you for what you have done to what was once a beautiful, cherished, beloved IP and a wonderful fandom to be part of. Because that's exactly what you deserve. That's exactly what you deserve. The one thing the devil hates the most is to be mocked. So we will continue to mock you as long as you continue to do the devil's work. Amen. Praise be to Jesus. I love this. Russell went straight to Billie. She didn't even have to audition or anything. Why would she? I doubt she had to audition for Bad Wolf either. All happened very quickly. I don't even think Russell knows why she has Rose's face yet. Why would he? None of this was planned. This is a desperate attempt from a desperate man to save some kind of legitimacy and to not be remembered as the last showrunner of Doctor Who. That's all this is. That's all it's. They are so predictable. It is so obvious. It is so on the nose when they do this kind of stuff. There was no build-up. There was no hints. There was no fan theories about this. It literally came out of left field. It just shows you how desperate they really are. Most of season 3, which RTD has already written, was done with Ncuti in mind. So don't expect the next Doctor, if there is one, to be too different. There were a few alternative takes of Billie's first lines. Everything in the unit after the Belinda, Doctor, and Ruby scene, which was also heavily reworked in reshoots. Of course they did. How'd that work out for Captain America Brave New World? How's that going to work out for Fantastic Four? Never a good sign. Was reshoots, as well as the garden and Belinda's house scene and the stuff with 13, obviously, aka Dr. Karen. They're not going to admit that Ncuti leaving after 2 seasons wasn't always the plan, because that would mean admitting that season 3 was delayed because season 1 didn't do well as initially hoped, which Russell will never do. Because of course not. Because at the end of the day, boys and girls, what does this always come back to? Ego and narcissism. Pride. Pride before the fall. The oldest sin in recorded history, right? The original one out there. Pride. And it's always the one that it comes back to this. Russell T Davies and the BBC do not want to publicly admit that the show and the direction Russell T Davies has taken it in is a complete and abysmal failure. We thought things were bad under Chris Chibnall. Holy cow! Did RTD come back and go, hold my double-sided 24-inch black favorite toy and watch this? Because we thought just stupid, nonsensical semi-quasi kind of political stuff from bygone eras during the Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who, which at the end of the day, I just found really boring because I knew nothing about it and it made no sense to me. I gave her a shot. I gave Dr. Karen a shot. I absolutely did. I watched the whole first season and I was bored to tears. I did not care about the characters. The dialogue was stupid and nonsensical. The stories went nowhere. It was dumb. The only cool scene that I thought about any of that was when Dr. Karen was making her screwdriver. I thought that was kind of neat. I thought that was kind of unique. But now looking back at it, I should have realized that was the first sign of how bad things were to come, because it broke tradition. Right? The TARDIS had always provided the Doctor with his screwdriver, right? At least in all of the stuff that I've seen of all of the new presentations of whenever we actually need to get a new screwdriver. Correct me in the comments down below for all of you classic Who fans out there who know that stuff better than I do if I'm wrong. But needless to say, it broke the tradition that I knew. And that should have been our first sign that things were going to be bad. And we thought the ratings were bad back then. We thought the storylines were ridiculous. And then Russell T Davies came in here and flat out told us he wasn't going to retcon the Timeless Children and that he was going to put his agenda above good storytelling. He was going to put his agenda above ratings. He was going to put his agenda above the Whovians out there, above the fans and above the audience. Because apparently what he does with his genitalia is more important than giving fans a successful and good quality Doctor Who show. So boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, it's exactly what we predicted. Once again, the reliable sources that have been proven right time and time again have confirmed what we suspected. That BBC and Russell T Davies is as predictable as they come. This was never the plan to have Billie Piper come back. And anybody that tells you that is either intentionally naive or trying to mislead you. That's just the facts of the matter. Because how many times do these inside sources have to be proven right time and time again for you to finally believe that the destruction and the desperation behind Disney Doctor Who is real? The ratings have collapsed. They are the worst in the 60-year history of this show and only have continued to decline over and over again and will do the exact same thing. So by all means, please, somebody out there, believe the hype. Disney, Bob Iger, believe the hype that Billie Piper coming back will save Doctor Who. Because I know, and every other common sense Whovian out there knows, that it will not matter. You will see a spike for a moment, and it will continue to decline over and over and over again, just like what we have seen the entire time. Russell T Davies, you have done this to Doctor Who. Bob Iger, you paid for it. And BBC, you signed off for it. You have destroyed Doctor Who, not the critics on the internet. You are responsible for the death and the worst ratings in history of Doctor Who. And no attempt to bring Billie Piper back to put up all the hype in the world will save this show. Russell T Davies, you put your agenda over the fans and the audience, and you will go down being remembered as the last showrunner of Doctor Who. Or at least the one that killed it in the modern era. And after all, it's exactly what you deserve.